It's 6 o'clock. So welcome candidates, incumbent Mayor Rick Dodd and our challenger Mitch Craig. Thanks to all of you who took the time to attend today and those that are watching on our cable access channel or other streaming devices, and thanks to you as well. I'm Marianne Hanson. I'm the president and CEO of the Portage Area Chamber of Commerce, and we are your host of this Portage Mayoral Debate tonight. We will cover a variety of topics and issues that have been raised by the community and the candidates themselves at the forum that the Chamber held prior in February. The candidates have not received any of the questions in advance tonight. It is customary for our Chamber of Commerce to not provide questions to the candidates during a debate held after the primary elections. The candidates tonight will have an opportunity to give us opening statements and closing statements, each with a 2-minute limit. Our timekeeper will let you know when you're getting close to your limit. As I introduce a topic and ask a question, one candidate will respond and the other will then get an opportunity to respond. We will continue with discussion back and forth and debate between you both, and then we will move on to the next question. My role as the moderator tonight will be to keep the discussion moving and focused on the topic. I will ask the audience to listen to the answers of each candidate, but please, no responses from the audience, as this is an opportunity for us to hear from these men as they make their case as to why they should represent the city of Portage as the mayor for the next 3 years. I'm confident that we will all be respectful to these candidates as we can make this happen tonight. So let's begin. Randomly, we selected Mayor Dodd, that you can start with your opening statement.
Okay, I'd like to thank the Chamber for doing this. I also would like to say that the reason for running is I have a few items yet that need to be addressed. One of them is economic growth. The other is housing growth. We have a good start on each of those, but we still need to get them going. We have a lot of information to probably get through tonight. I will answer them to the best of my ability. And I like to say that my goals for the mayor is the same as they've always have been, is to make Portage a better place to live, work, and play than it was when I started the job. I believe that we have done a lot of that stuff, and we still have additional items to complete. We have infrastructure to repair, we have parks that need to be worked on, and we have a fairly significant building project coming up within the next couple of years. And with that, I'd like to just say that again, without the help of the city, without the help of the employees of the city, this job would not be a part-time job. So at that point, again, make it a better place than when I started. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Craig.
Yeah, I'm running for the mayor because the citizens and small business owners in this community have asked me to run for mayor. They see me as a successful business owner.
We might have to, I don't want to interrupt you, but we might have to just move that. There you go. Thank you.
They see me as a successful business owner who's always treated people fairly and with respect. I am not a politician. I'm a small business owner who has always managed or owned my business or owned a business my entire life.
All right, thank you. All right, let's start with our first question then. And we're going to start with Mayor Dodd. And again, he will have an opportunity to answer. Mr. Craig will have an opportunity, and then we will have a discussion if you so feel like we need to continue on that. And then I will choose when we move forward to our next question. So the first one is, what do you see as an opportunity for Portage to capitalize in the next 3 years as you continue to move the city forward as the next mayor?
I think there's several items that need to be handled in order to move forward. One of them, I've always gotten complaints that Portage isn't growing physically or population-wise. We can't do that until we get the north side subdivision going. It has 90+ lots involved in that. Some are multifamily, most of the majority of them are single family. But until we get places for people to live in the city of Portage, we're not gonna grow the population. The second is economic growth. We have a ways to go yet in economic growth, but we made a lot of progress. In economic growth, we have roughly 85% of our industrial park filled with new businesses. We have a lot of room to grow yet. We're gonna have to annex a little bit more in order to continue to grow within the city. But we've made excellent progress in filling the industrial park with good paying jobs. We have worked with the economic development, Steve Sobiak, to make sure that the downtown is vibrant. And if you look at the downtown buildings, there are very few vacant fronts in the downtown area at this point in time. So those are the two major things that I think we need to do is, again, economic growth and housing growth in order to move the city forward. Thank you.
On the topic of economic growth, every city in the state of Wisconsin is in competition for two things. That's people and its businesses. And we need to be much more aggressive as a city in not only attracting but retaining businesses. There's all kinds of ways to do it. I mean, as a small business owner, I've been approached by mayors, business development people, city administrators from other cities. I'm not sure that our city is currently doing that. I've been approached at least 30 times over the last 20 years, asking us to start our business in other communities. We need to be much more aggressive. Every year there's an annual meeting. It's either held in Milwaukee or in Chicago. What it is all these different towns around the state and in the area, they go down there and they set up booths and they to attract different businesses to show them what they can offer. And all these major companies and small businesses go there and they talk to these cities. And we do not, as a city, we do not participate in that. All the communities around here, Baraboo, Reedsburg, Wisconsin Dells, they're all there. I've been there, I've seen them, they're all there, promoting their city and telling people why they should move their business to the city of Portage. We need to be much more aggressive in that. And we're just not following through, we're not being aggressive enough. Because that's what we're all in competition for, is for people and for business.
So if you become the next mayor, how would you do that? How would you be more aggressive?
Well, I would go out and visit the communities, which my wife and I do all the time, and look at different businesses who are successful and talk to them about bringing their business to the city of Portage and telling them why they should bring it to the city of Portage and what the city has to offer them. And go to this annual convention every year with the mayor, with the city administrator, with the business development person, and present all the wonderful things that we have in Portage to offer all these people.
Mayor Dodd, do you have anything you'd like to respond?
Yeah, I would say that we've been very active in business retention. We have Cardinal Glass within the last 5 years has basically over 1 million square feet of glass manufacturing. It is the largest glass manufacturer in the United States. We have expanded Weiser Concrete twice in order to accommodate them. We have more than double the size of Dawn's Food in order to bring in more lines for Dawn's Food. We have local grown businesses. Do It Center in Portage recently expanded to do that. We also have Trienda and Penda who have increased their capacity here. We have international companies and national companies that have come here. We have K&M Tires distributorship. This summer we're going to have starting on the asphalt paving services in the industrial park, which will have, this will be, I think, their 7th or 8th community that they've been in. They specifically picked Portage because of the location of the railroads and the location of the highways. So I think we have retained a lot of our businesses and encouraged them to grow. And so, while I'm not gonna argue that going out to conventions will help, but you, again, as Mitch Craig said, we're competing against larger cities, more cities, and we have quality of life here that is pretty much second to none. We have great lakes, we have 2 rivers to go in, we have great parks, and we have one of the best swimming locations in Silver Lake Beach that's around this area.
Mm-hmm.
So I would somewhat say that we are doing great business retention within the city.
Great, thank you. Mr. Craig, do you have anything to add to that? Otherwise, we'll move on to the next
We can
question.
move on to the next
All right, so the next one is towards you. What do you foresee as your main challenge if you were to become the mayor in the next 3 years?
Making city government more transparent, making it more accessible for the citizens of Portage. We're in 2022, we don't even have Wi-Fi here. We have a streaming service that we don't use, so people don't have access to meetings. All they really can do is either watch it on TV or get the summary report from the minutes that were taken, which doesn't include any of the conversations between the aldermen. So I would say that I would make it so that the city is much more accessible to the citizens of Portage, and make it so that people get more involved by going out and talking with the people in the community, talking with small business owners before we make a decision. The problem is they all make decisions up here, and then they have public comment. But by the time it goes to public comment, the decisions are already made. And that's why people don't come to public comment anymore, because they feel they have no input, because the decision is already made before they even have public input. I would make it so that before we have public input, the people of the citizens of Portage have all to say about what direction we're gonna go, not the people that are up in city government, because it's their city, not ours.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Dodd, your response.
Yeah, there are several items that come to mind that we could do to increase the visibility of the city and what happens within this walls and within city government. But we also have to maintain the fact that we need to become and stay legal as far as open meeting records and the retention of those records. So it's not just as simple as saying, we're gonna live stream this meeting because we can. We have to remain legal to the state statutes. And most of our decisions that come to the council are pretty much made at committee level. We are structured in a committee level, and the council is the final approval process of that. So there is discussion that happens whenever there's a large project that goes on. 5 years ago or 6 years ago, it was sidewalks on River Street. The municipal meeting that was held next door over there in conference room 1 was packed of citizens providing their input. So I think we don't do 100% as what we need to, but we are very good at providing input. And I think we would be probably a little bit better had we still have our local paper be a local paper. It is always sometimes that I open that paper up and I find nothing but national news on the front page. There's times I can't even find what the score was of the football game the following night. So we need to get back to that community growth and community roots that made Portage what it is. Thank you.
Mr. Craig, do you have anything to respond to that?
On the River Street project, I would say that it was packed with people voicing their discontent with the fact that they were putting in sidewalks. The citizens spoke loud and clear that night. They did not want sidewalks. But guess what happened? They have sidewalks. And then they wonder why people don't show up at public comments anymore. Because they show up, they voice their displeasure with what they're gonna do, but it doesn't change anything.
So that kind of leads me into another question. And I'm going to skip a question because I have a question that pertains to what we're talking about now. So this actually is going to start with you, Mr. Craig. So you mentioned transparency and accessibility. So in the forum that the chamber held back in February, you had mentioned that citizens have expressed to you that their voices are not being heard. And Mayor Dodd has held listening sessions to involve residents and listen to concerns. So if you become mayor, how do you intend to address this and engage the citizens in government?
By not waiting for the citizens to come to City Hall, to go out in the community and meet with the people, where they live, where they work. And that's what I do now. I go out and talk to people every day out in this community. And they come up and talk to me, because they know I'm very accessible, and people understand that when they ask me a question, I just give them a straight answer. I just tell them how I feel. Like I've said before, I'm not a politician. I'm just a regular guy who cares about the city tremendously. And I enjoy talking with people and finding out the different views. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I am a very good listener. And I like to listen to people who have a different opinion than mine, because people can change my mind because I have an open mind. And the other thing is, like I said, we need to get in this time that's going on. People are on the internet. They're on their phones. And we don't have that kind of access down here at City Hall. And our webpage that we have for City Hall, it's very difficult to manage the webpage. And most of the time, it's not even up to date. Most of the time that there's department managers who have left the city, and 6 months later, they're still listed as a department manager. I mean, there's no one that's keeping that website up to date. And we need to do a much better job. If I become mayor, I will put out a podcast every month to let the citizens know what transpired in the city for the last month and what we're gonna try to accomplish in the next month. And that'll be every single month. So to try to get people more involved about what's going on in their community. Because I think people are starting to realize that what happens up here at City Hall matters.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Dodd, so I have a follow-up before you begin with yours. So since I had mentioned that you have already held listening sessions and you do, so do you continue to do this, or do you think you have a different way if you were to continue as mayor the next 3 years to get that engagement?
No, I think I will continue to do that. It is maybe a bit old-fashioned to see people face to face, but it's always been done in a neutral territory. It's normally been done at the library. When that's not accessible, I have held one in the basement of City Hall, but for the most part, they're done in neutral territory so that it's non-threatening to the community members that come. They've been very successful. They stopped in 2020 when everything kind of shut down in the middle of March for the COVID-19 process. But yes, I do probably continue to do that, because it is two-way communication, and it's a personal two-way communication. It's pretty much one-on-one when somebody asks a question. And I've usually split them up. They've been held every quarter roughly, and I split that up for facts of giving updates of what's happening at City Hall, what's happening at the projects that are happening within the city, and then let them ask questions. And so they've been very well received up until this point. And it's not a new idea. I took it from the two state legislators that we have. They've been going around to their district for years, doing pretty much the exact same thing.
Okay. Any follow-up, Mr.
Oh,
Craig?
yeah, the other thing is, this last Saturday, I attended the Automatic meet and greet over at the library. To let you know, that was a very, very productive meeting. It was very engaging. If I become mayor, I would strongly encourage all the aldermen to at least have a session like that every 3 months. I mean, it was a very good experience. There was a lot of good, thoughtful discussion going on at that time, and I learned a lot of things that I didn't know, and a lot of aldermen that were there learned a lot of things that they didn't know by the input from the citizens. So that's another thing that we could do to get the citizens more involved.
Any additional follow-up, Mayor Dodd?
Yeah, I will say that I have encouraged them in the past, the older people, to hold their own listening sessions at the library. And for some reason, they don't seem that they feel the need to do that. But it is a very good way of getting information from the public.
All right, so we're gonna go back to a question. This one will be to you, Mayor Dodd, first. So, as mayor, can you tell us how you have worked cooperatively with city staff to continue to improve services and solve problems? You may not always agree with the decision made by the city administrator or the common council or members of a committee. So how do you respect that decision and still work to get things done for the good of the city of Portage?
Well, when I first took over as mayor, city administrator and I did not see eye to eye on a lot of things. I questioned a lot of what he did. He questioned a lot of my thinking on why I was asking questions of him. But last time I ran on coaching. And coaching is not preaching, coaching is trying to help the individual understand what's going on and to think outside the box. I think we've accomplished a lot of that. There is always times when city staff and the elected official are gonna disagree. And I don't see anything wrong with disagreeing with the decisions that happen. But we also have to remember that the citizens are the real winners of this if we continue to banter, so to speak, and come up with the good ideas for the city. And so there isn't any right or wrong answer for a lot of these issues. It's coming up with what's best for the citizens, and that's really what this job is about, is coming up, keeping the citizens informed, keeping the best decisions going forward. And it's very difficult to, at times, to make decisions that's gonna please everybody. It just doesn't work 100% of the time. So there are times when we come back after we discuss stuff with the elected officials, with the committees, that we actually change directions a little bit. So I think the best thing that we can do is continue to have that conversation back and forth with city staff, with the elected officials. And yes, there's times when nobody shows up for public comment, but you gotta keep pushing at it, so, thank you.
Mr. Craig, your response?
I've worked with people running a business or owning a business my entire life. I've listened to people. I'm not saying I have all the answers, because I don't, and that's why I like talking to people. And I can respect other people's ideas, and if everybody agrees that that's the way we should go, rather than the idea that I believe is the right way to go, I'm perfectly fine with that. Because like Rick said, it's all about what the citizens of the city of Portage want, not what I want. And that we're here to make sure that we follow through and do what the citizens of Portage want, and not what city government wants. I'm sure there'll be lots of times where the citizens will want to do things different than what city government wants them to do, but that's not what we're here for. And we need to respect the citizens, and like I said, to do what the citizens of Portage want done, not what the city government wants done.
So a follow-up to that would be, in this role as mayor, criticism is probably a big thing that happens in this role. So how do you deal with it when you're criticized for a decision you made that maybe the citizens don't agree with?
No, I have absolutely no problem with criticism. That's how you make yourself a better person, make yourself a stronger leader. And so criticism to me is very welcomed. There's a reason why that we have a 5-star business, because we do listen to people, we do take criticism, and we react to that criticism.
Thank you. Mayor Dodd.
I also have no problem with criticism. I fully endorse constructive criticism as it goes along, but there is a lot of negative comments that come out that is very disturbing to me personally, because there is nobody that has a better love for the city than I do, and there's nobody that wants to have 100% agreement within the city for what we do. The unfortunate part and the reality of that is there's never going to be 100% agreement between all the citizens of the city of Portage on where we should work for, what we should work on, and how we should get it accomplished.
All right, thank you. All right, so let's change topics. Let's talk about economic development. So we're going to start with you, Mayor Dodd. What are some of your ideas to create more progress, more development, more jobs, more tax base for the city? How do you think that will spur growth for our city?
I think it's very critical for the growth of the city to have economic development. We have a very good economic development director in Steve Sobiak, who is on top of a lot of the organizations around the state and on top of the local ones that govern some of the businesses that we do have here. We are very conscious of trying to retain the businesses that we have here. As I mentioned, there's been a lot of expansion to those projects and to those businesses, and we need to continue that, because the ones that are here are the ones that are currently the growth factors of the city. So we need to do that. We need to also, in the same breath, have enough foresight to bring in new businesses, whether it's downtown, whether it's a large development, whether it's a small development. We have the capacity to take on more of that role as a city. Before I was elected, Steve was here, but there was no communication really between the mayor and the economic development person. So one of the first things I did was establish every other week, the administrator, economic development, and myself sat down to talk about what developments were coming, what developments we need. And so I think it's a very good thing. The other thing we have to do is we're currently working with Madison College to get some health or some child care stuff going so that we can retain some of these employees that we have at the businesses, because they are what makes the city grow. We currently have more people coming to work in the city than we have leaving the city for work, so we must be doing some things correctly. Thank you. He's holding up the time sign there.
We'll continue the conversation. I can see him back there. So Mr. Craig will give you an opportunity.
Like I said, I am a small business owner. I understand what businesses are looking for and what they need to get and run a successful business. I know how to attract different businesses because you go out and you talk to people, you go to other communities, you talk to their businesses who are very, very successful. The other area that I think we really need to be more concentrated on is that we really need to figure out what we're going to do with the airport. Because a hobby airport is not going to be making the city of Portage a successful community and attract the kind of businesses that we need. We need to expand our airport so that, some people say, well, just so these people can fly their jets in here and land. Well, that's important, folks. You have to understand these big companies, these people's time is very valuable. And we need to make sure that we're providing what they need. We're in a very unique situation in the city of Portage that we sit on the intersection of 5 major highways. And we have a railroad system and an Amtrak. And, excuse me, we're not taking advantage of that, and we're not communicating to all these large businesses. You take the new Amazon facility that's being built down by Madison, they paid $30 million for that land. Well, why didn't they look at Portage? We have a better transportation for all of their, businesses than the location that they picked. So we need to be much more aggressive in how we attract and how we retain businesses. A lot of what we do now is just swap out businesses. One business closes, another business comes in. Another business closes, another business comes in. We don't really have a tremendous growth in the city like we should have as far as business goes.
So could you expand on that? What do you see as growth? Do you see growth as a current business that we already have, maybe has 50 employees and they add more to it? Or do you see growth as a new business coming in?
I see growth as new businesses with new buildings being built so that we can increase our tax base. I mean, that's what we're lacking in the city. We need to grow our tax base. We're kind of restrained by what we can do, and we're always borrowing money to improve our roads, which we haven't done a very good job on, because all we can do is borrow the money because we have such a low tax base.
Mayor Dodd, can you respond to that? You can respond to his comments, but I want to hear from you as well. Do you see growth as a business that we currently have, maybe has 50 employees and decides to increase employees, or do you only see growth as a new business coming to town?
I actually see it as both. The current business that we have, we need to keep them, retain them, and grow them as they see fit. We also need to have new businesses because there's only so much to go, and so much growth that some of these businesses can sustain. But we do have, to Mitch's point, we have to do something with our airport. We're not gonna expand it where it's at. It is not feasible to make that airport suitable for aircraft larger than a 2-prop airplane. We cannot get a 5,000-foot runway in there, which is the minimum length that people need for the jets. The reason we probably didn't get Amazon is because we don't have that airport. We don't even have an airport close to us other than Madison and Baraboo that have a 5,000-foot runway. And by the way, Baraboo just dropped out of their airport, so they're no longer part of the management system for the Baraboo airport. But that being said, we are surrounded by swamps and lowland water and everything else that is hindering part of our expansion. There's great ideas, there's great things that come from being surrounded by lakes as far as recreation, but as soon as you get surrounded by rivers and lakes, you kind of limit your places that you can grow. So we have taken extraordinary measures to maintain the business that we have and to get new ones as we see fit. Are we ever going to get a big box store in here? Nope, because that ship sailed a long time ago that most of the big box stores require 40 to 50 miles between stores. And with the Lake Delton stores on the east side of Madison and Sun Prairie, we're just not gonna do that. So we've taken the approach to do niche businesses that wanna come here and that we've sought out to come here, such as the asphalt paving system. That ultimately could be a very good moneymaker for us. But as Mitch said, if you lose one, you just bring another one in, that's not good. So you have to maintain and you have to retain the businesses that you have, or we're not gonna grow either. We have a vibrant airport commission now that's got direction to do a search for a new airport location. Is it gonna be within the city limits? Nope, because there isn't areas that are large enough to support a 5,000-foot runway.
So let me ask a follow-up question to this, and Mr. Craig, we're gonna start with you on this one. So do you think tax credit incentives should be used to attract businesses? I mean, it's used in other communities, low interest loans that the city provides. Do you think Portage should be doing more of this to attract those new businesses?
Definitely. We need to do whatever we have to do to, like I said before, I mean, every city in this state is in competition for business. They're all out there doing whatever they have to do to attract more businesses. And as a city, we're not doing that. We are just simply not doing that. We have, compared to other communities around here, we have very slow growth as far as business in the city of Portage. Like I said, as far as the airport goes, we've dropped the ball on that for years. We could have been so much farther down the road with the airport than we are. And the other thing is, by moving the airport, look at what it opens up for the city of Portage. We're talking prime real estate, not only where the airport currently sits, but the property across the street that you can't develop with housing or anything else because of the airport. We need to be much more aggressive on this whole airport to attract, and I wasn't talking about attracting big box business to the city, but attracting larger manufacturing and industries like that.
Mayor Dodd?
Yeah, the airport may have been dropped, but the airport basically, is the state that it's in because I-39, Silver Lake Drive, and are all boxing in the airport. So those went in back in 1965, roughly. Some of them, I know we're not gonna get the state to move I-39 out of the way so that we can expand our runway. So we don't really have anything to do but move the airport to a location that we can grow and make a runway that sustains aircraft. And it's not a point that we're gonna build the airport and they're gonna come. We need to have a business plan that says, if we move this airport, what are we gonna do in order to make sure that it self-sustains itself? I've had conversations with the airport commission chair many times about this. And it's finally come within the last year that they settled on the fact that we're not gonna be able to get a 5,000-foot runway in the location that it's at. As far as the line across the street, there are 3 to 4 housing developments that are going in there now, and there's probably talk of more going in there. So we're not limiting across the street. We're limiting what can be put in, because we shortened our runway so that we could get the safety factor that we need to do safe operations at the airport. There's nobody that's gonna fly into that if the airport's not safe. And I see Barry shaking his head over there because he saw we've already gone through a lot of this stuff. And I'm sorry, Barry, if I embarrassed you, but that's, so our part is to retain and get the new businesses that are the medium-sized manufacturing businesses that we have been very successful at getting. Like I don't want to keep harping on K&M Tires. We have Belco coming in that's moving from Poinette. They're taking up a large part of the industrial park. We have CNS Industries or CNS companies that expanded their businesses because their business has expanded, so they needed to expand their headquarters. We're working with all of these people to maintain it. And in the same breath, we're going out searching for new companies that want to come to Portage. We didn't really go out and search out WCCU, the credit union that's going up by Goodwill. But when they came in and said, can we locate here? We went into high gear and got what they needed and got the approvals they needed. And they started building last year, they'll be open this year. Mm-hmm. It increases the tax base.
Sure. Thank you. Mr. Craig, anything you'd like to add? Otherwise we'll move on to our next question.
Move on to the next.
All right. So the next one is focused on downtown. So the downtown area has grown and developed in the last years. There are currently more than 150 businesses in this area with a small vacancy rate. Mayor Dodd mentioned that earlier. Yet there always seems to be this criticism of downtown Portage. In fact, one candidate running for alderperson was quoted in the Daily Register as saying, and I quote, "Our downtown has several great businesses in it, but it is otherwise dead," end quote. You're a business owner in downtown. What are your thoughts on this and our downtown?
Well, one of the major issues in downtown is obviously parking. It's a big problem in downtown. And I don't know that you can really solve that issue. There's not really anywhere to expand parking in downtown. But there are opportunities. There's the old Hill Ford property that has sat that way for approximately 18 years and nothing has ever been done about it. There's ways to try. I think we need to go out and, like I said, and go to other communities and get some of these smaller niche businesses to come in downtown Portage. I mean, we have a lot of lawyers' offices, title companies, hair salons in downtown Portage. I think we need to have a better variety of stores in downtown Portage than what we currently have. I mean, it's one thing to fill up the stores with businesses, but you need to attract a better variety of businesses to get people to go downtown Portage. I think that's what we're lacking, is the diversity in downtown Portage with the businesses that are currently there.
I'm gonna come back to you, Mayor Dodd. I just want you, can you explain a little bit more to us when you say there's a parking issue? What do you perceive as the parking issue?
I didn't say I perceived it as a parking issue, but that's what people tell me, that there's no parking in downtown Portage. And they do not like the fact that all the semis that run through downtown Portage. That's a major concern of the citizens of Portage. It makes them feel uneasy with when you have 5, 6, 7 semis going both ways at the same time. It's that's an issue, and it's unfortunate that years ago we didn't put in a bypass so that we didn't have all that traffic in downtown Portage. Because if we didn't have all that traffic in downtown Portage, you could close off the streets more often and do more big events to draw people to downtown. You're currently not able to do that. You're able to on a limited basis because you're dealing with state highways, so you can't just shut down the roads. So that's unfortunate that happened, and there's nothing we can do about it. So we need to work around that. But I still believe that it's not my perception of the parking. It's the people who currently go downtown and shop is what they believe. I believe that there's adequate parking downtown with Market Square and then the new one over by the movie theater in that area. So I do believe that there's plenty of parking, and over by the library and obviously across the street from the popcorn corner. But perception is everything.
Mayor Dodd.
Yeah, I think that the downtown area this is nationwide. Brick and mortar stores are not going to come back into the downtown areas, such as JCPenney's, Montgomery Ward's, and those Spurgeon's, those stores that were there in the 60s and 70s. They just simply aren't investing in stores in those locations. And yes, we have a truck problem in the city of Portage. We've always had a truck problem in the city of Portage, but most places that have taken out truck traffic or made bypasses and routes around the city, their downtowns have died even faster than what Portage did. And Portage is making a great comeback, by the way, in the downtown area. Yes, there's a lot of service organizations in there, a lot of barber shops, a lot of hair salons, some restaurants. But when we went into agreement with the county to put the 2 county buildings over there, that brought foot traffic alone probably doubled or tripled what was downtown. And those people need places to get their haircuts, they need places to eat, and we've been providing that. There is nothing stopping anybody from opening a store downtown other than the fact that they don't like it, and they do perceive it as being a dead downtown. I don't see it that way. I still see it as a vibrant downtown because it's got a lot of traffic down there. It's got more than ample parking for everything, but I've heard that same comment, there's no place to park. But these same people are the people that'll park out in the parking lot of Walmart, walk to the back of the store, which would convey just about the whole thing of walking through town from one end of town to the other. So it's not a convenience store, but it is something that needs to get fixed, and we need to be able to advertise our downtown.
Mr. Craig, any response? All right. Thank you. We're going to switch topics again. Now we're going to talk about infrastructure. So Mayor Dodd, we're going to start with you. The city spends an average of $2.2 million for street resurfacing, chip sealing, crack filling, alley and sidewalk projects, and one major street reconstruction project a year. What do you believe is the best way to fund street improvements annually?
Well, because of the fact that the state limits us to what we can actually tax, so to speak, for the general obligation fund, they left us no recourse than every other municipality is. We need to borrow the funds. 5 or 6 years ago, we did implement the local vehicle registration. That brings in roughly $200,000 a year that we use on maintenance projects, chip sealing and crack filling. And the reason we use that is because if we borrow those funds, and say we get $200,000, those funds would be borrowed in a payback period of 20 years, because we don't borrow anything less than a 20-year note for the most part. Those maintenance projects last about 5 to 7 years. So we're actually saving money in the long run by doing the vehicle registration. That vehicle registration tax, or the wheel tax as it's called, can be used for nothing but transportation items, which includes alleys, it includes chip sealing, crack sealing, sidewalks, and parking lots. By state law, that's what we have to do. There's a lot of people that lately said, I don't know where my money's going. Then they're not paying attention, because we put signs up every year of what's being paid for by the wheel tax and what's being paid for otherwise. So we are using it, we are being fiscally responsible, but we're not gonna be able to tax, so to speak, increase our levy in order to pay for this $2 million. Half a mile of road 2 years ago cost about $1.1 million to do. We have 55 miles of road. If 10 of those were state highways, which we get, that leaves us with 45 miles of road. If we fixed a half a mile a year, we'd never get done. So we are doing it, we prioritize what we need to do.
Mr. Craig, how do you think we can do that?
The number one complaint in this city is about roads. That's what people care about, that's what they drive on every single day.
Is that what you hear? As
Every
running for
single day.
candidate, that's what you hear, okay?
All the time. I mean, that is the number one complaint. That everything else is way down on the list. Roads is it. I mean, and this year we put off the Conant Street project. Once again, we disappointed the people who live on Conant Street. I understand that we're applying for a grant, and along with every other city in the state of Wisconsin who's applying for that grant, there's only so much money to go around with that grant, and we're hoping that we get it. If we don't get it, then the 1.2 project next year, regardless of whether we get the grant or whether we don't get the grant, what's the road project next year? 1.5, 1.6, 1.7 million it costs? Because of the increase from year to year on what it costs to redo roads and how all the materials is going up at such a fast pace. So even if the state steps in and gives us and pays the 80% of the cost of that road construction, we're still costing the taxpayers money that we didn't have to spend. We'd already put it in the budget, and it was approved by the Common Council to move ahead with the Conant Street project. And why didn't we continue? Why didn't we move forward with the project like the people on Conant Street have been promised for years and years and years? And it just keeps getting pushed back when we could apply the grant to apply to a different street, which God knows we have plenty of them in the city to fix.
Mayor Dodd, any response?
Yes, we did apply, or we are going to apply for an 80% match of whatever the project is. This will be going on for the next 4 years. The amount of money that the state got was somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 billion for infrastructure for roads. That doesn't include infrastructure for Wi-Fi, doesn't include bridges. It's strictly roads. And they categorized the roads in different categories, and we did not have any roads in this opening grant, which was due April 1st, that qualified for that. But it would be fiscally unresponsible of us to say that we're not gonna try and save $1.2 million in potential road repairs and more for the future by not applying for that grant. Yes, it is a little bit more inconvenience for the residents of West Conant Street, but West Conant Street also includes a path and it includes floodway that needs to be approved by the DNR. All of that was being taken care of during the construction project, and we kind of, when this came about, we were probably 80% done with engineering, and we kind of stopped at that point. The other project that we were gonna do was Albert Street, because it was the only thing we could do for roads in this period was mill and overlay, which is just fixing the top stuff. When we talk about fixing infrastructure, it's the water and the sewer and the storm sewer that's underneath that infrastructure that also gets taken care of. That's all into the $1.1 million. So we are, if people wanna be mad at us for postponing it, because we were doing the fiscally responsible stuff by trying to keep the taxes down, which is probably, if Mitch says infrastructure is number one, taxes are number two of people complaining. So we tried to do that and keep that number down to where it's reasonable. Are we going to apply for Conant Street? Yes. Are we gonna build other streets that we can do and apply for grants? Yes, because we have 4 years in order to get these done. And by the way, they run on fiscal year, federal fiscal year, which is November, I think it's November 1st through the October 31st. Doesn't even correspond with most of the states who run a calendar year. So you're always gonna be a step behind when you're trying to do this stuff. And so there's more than just that went into this discussion about the grant than saying Conant Street's not gonna get done, and why isn't it getting done? You know, it is fiscal responsibility. We're elected to do more than just fix infrastructure. We're here to be fiscally responsible for every citizen that we tax, basically. Do I like raising taxes? No. And I'm the first one that talks to the finance committee when they come back with this number for that. We have last year in our taxes, other than payroll, we kept every department to less than 0.5% increase.
I want to give Mr. Craig a chance to respond.
We covered it.
No response?
No.
All right. All right, let's move on to our next question. The city's insurance company has indicated challenges to continue providing insurance coverage for the public works facility due to its age and current condition. A new building could cost between $6 and $7 million. How do you propose to fund this, Mr. Craig?
That's a really good question. I'm not sure that,
It's a lot of money for the city of Portage taxpayers.
that is a exorbitant amount of money for the citizens of Portage. I've always said I'm not actually the smartest person in the room, but I guess I would have to consult with different people and get advice from different people in the community as to what the best way to pay for that.
Were you aware that the public works facility was in that need of repair?
Yes, I was aware of
Sure.
it, but I'm not sure that I'm really prepared to say what is the best way to move forward with that at this
Okay.
time.
Mayor Dodd, do you have a response?
Yeah, there are some national organizations that will lend us money at a 40-year rate. If we can't build a building that lasts 40 years, then we don't need to build that building. But the only way that that's ever gonna happen is to borrow the money for it and spread it out across the life of the building in order to make it feasible for taxpayers' budgets. And there really isn't an option, because as soon as the insurance company says we're not gonna insure that anymore. We've got millions of dollars worth of equipment that we store there every day. And we're gonna have to do something with that equipment. Because as soon as they deem it uninsurable, I'm sure we're not gonna use it to store equipment. We got mechanics down there that repair our equipment. And we've been pushing this off probably for 7 to 10 years, roughly. It's come to the point now where it's gonna have to be moved forward on. And we're not gonna build the Taj Mahal of city garages. You know, we're gonna build one that's affordable and that functions for what we need it to do, which is house our equipment and be able to provide facilities for the mechanics to repair the equipment. And we're gonna move the Park and Rec department in there also to help share some of that cost, even though it's all coming from the city. So there are 40-year loans out there that we can get. We have a good bond rating, we have a good rating for the city that we can get these at a fairly reasonable cost as far as interest rates. But I don't see any way of doing this without borrowing the money.
Mr. Craig, anything you want to add to that?
No, thank you.
Okay. We're gonna move on to our next question then. So the city will receive just under $1.1 million from the American Rescue Plan Act funding. I talked about this in the forum that the chamber held in February. How do you propose the city spends this money, Mayor Dodd?
We currently, as of last Thursday, have a committee set up to go through and make recommendations to council as to what we want to do. As we went through the 2022 budget, there were items that were earmarked, so to speak, that could be used for the American Rescue Plan money. That totaled up, came to $2.2 million, twice the money that we have. So we're gonna have to do some serious negotiation and cutting for that. And that has 3 city members on there and most of the staff members, because they know what's going on within the city. We are definitely going to probably set aside a portion of that money for lead pipe service to help residents repair or replace their lead pipe services, which will be on private property. We currently do not know, and I don't think we have any way of finding out how many lead pipe laterals we actually have. But as we come across them, we're gonna have this fund in order to help them defray the cost of that. Again, that hasn't all been set up or determined how we're gonna do that, but you know, it may be a 50% match of the cost of the lateral. But lead pipes definitely have to get out of the city. And the rest is going to be used on items that are probably a little bit smaller in scope, but things that have a payback for the city. You know, one of the ideas that's floating is to turn the city hall a little more green by doing LED lighting. May cost us money up front, but the payback in the future is gonna save residents in the taxpayer and the utilities. So those are some of the ideas.
Mr. Craig?
I would give the citizens of Portage what they want and use all the money to fix roads. Like I said, it's the #1 complaint. I mean, when I was at the Alderman meet and greet the other day, without a doubt, that is the #1 complaint about the city of Portage. And everyone that was in attendance all agreed on one thing. They're more than happy to pay more taxes to fix the roads. That's how disgusted the citizens are in the city about the road condition.
So just so I wanna make sure there's some clarity, so the entire $1.1 million, you would just wanna put toward roads, you wouldn't use it towards any other aspects?
That is correct.
Okay. Mayor Dodd, do you have a response?
1.1 million is gonna fix about a half mile of road. I don't think that that's the right answer for what we should use this money for. There are projects that will have payback long after we finish the infrastructure. And it's not just getting the money to fix the infrastructure, but we have to have oversight for employees to fix it. So it's not just borrowing the money to do the work which we contract out. We have to do the engineering work for it, we have to make sure that we do the oversight for it, so there is no way that we can fix more than one major road a year with the employees we have. If we wanna increase our employees, that's a long-term issue that would definitely add to the cost. And we are capped, again, at the new growth that we have, a percentage of that for which we can increase the general obligation fund. And we also have a cap on the amount of money we can borrow. So it's not just like us saying, okay, we're gonna borrow $30 million to fix the road. We can't do that because A, the state has caps and the city council has caps less than that. So we can't really borrow all the money to fix the roads without starting to pay back what we already have borrowed. And so a few years ago, the finance department decided to only borrow for what we're paying back. And that comes up to be about $2.2 million that we pay back in loans, and we'll borrow that again going forward. So it's kind of a non-ending cycle that we're doing, but we have caps and limitations of what we can do for borrowing and for general obligation fund taxation.
Thank you. Mr. Craig, anything else you want to add to that?
No, thank you.
No? All right, so let's finish our discussion. Let's talk about housing. So Mayor Dodd, I think we can all agree in this room that we need more housing in our community. What strategies would you like to implement as mayor in the next 3 years to develop and create more housing?
I think one of the strategies is to look at the housing study that was done last year. It listed what we needed, where people lived, and what type of housing they're looking for. Everybody's looking for affordable single house housing. The trouble is that affordable housing is now in the $250,000 to $275,000 range. It is not feasible for everybody to own a single house or a single family house. So we're looking at developing on the north side, single family housing, duplex or some sort of shared housing with people, and also multifamily housing, such as apartment buildings. We have two developers right now that are looking to figure out a way to come in and do multifamily housing for us. But the real thing is that we need to be smart on how we're doing this. And the smartest way to do that is to follow the plan and follow the housing thing that was developed for us last year by an independent person from the UW Extension. With that being said, it's gonna take us a while to get caught up. For years, we've been building 1, 2, 3, maybe if we're really lucky, 6 houses a year. Portage isn't gonna grow like that. We don't have enough land to build many more houses, and that's gonna cost us the money to do this north side development. So I think it's very important that we keep that development going on task to get started next year, because it's gonna take a while for that to really catch on and start off and keep growing.
Mr. Craig.
I couldn't agree with Mayor Dodd more that, the development on the north side is gonna be a big boost for the, citizens of Portage to be able to move here and the other thing is, if you're gonna grow businesses and attract more businesses, you have to have a place for those people to live. And so I was very encouraged when they came up with this development on the north side. My only concern is that, as far as the citizens that I've talked to, they've expressed deep concern about what kind of housing is being built up there. I mean, this is a blue collar town. We need to make sure that we're building housing that reflects that. I mean, if you're building $250,000, $300,000 houses up there, those people cannot afford that. And so if that's the kind of housing that we're gonna build up there, I would encourage the city to build more multi-family units so that it's more affordable for the citizens who live here and wanna live here. I mean, we can't just keep building $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 houses, because that's what else is up on that end of town. We need to be a town that's more reflective of what live in the city of Portage, the majority of the citizens that live in Portage, which is blue collar. And those people, those folks cannot afford $250,000, $300,000 homes, folks. Can't happen.
Mayor Dodd, your response?
Yeah, there will be, according to the developers, everything from traditional neighborhood to, which are probably roughly 1/3 to 4/10 of an acre lots, and smaller setbacks so we can get more houses in there. But there's also gonna be multifamily out there. And there's gonna be some larger lots for those people that wanna build the larger homes within the city of Portage. We are not going to restrict the type of houses that go into that development. That's up to the people who want to build those houses. We are building a subdivision that is capable of handling anything from a 700 square foot house, probably to a 5,000, 6,000 square foot house. That's all gonna be done within that development, along with some very, nice, kind of, the lack of anything better is row houses. They're gonna be next to each other, along with two bedroom, each one will have their own driveway, their own or garage for it. And they are still gonna probably be fairly expensive, just because of the cost of lumber and the cost of building today. If you go to anywhere and try and buy a 2x4 now, what used to be $2 is now $6 to $8. It's just the way it is right now, and until that changes, I don't wanna say that I'm wrong on that, on the $250,000 starter home, but when you build new, that's pretty much what it's gonna be, you know? And there are quite a few houses in Portage that are fairly substantial houses, and there's a bunch of, I don't wanna call them older houses, but they were built in the time when you look at the city. There are smaller lots in certain parts of the city, and they kind of expanded through the 70s and 80s, you know? We're gonna give them what they want to build on. We're gonna expand Hamilton Street so that it goes through. We're gonna expand the infrastructure that goes underneath that street so that we have fewer dead-end water laterals, fewer dead-end sewers. That's all gonna be taken care of a lot by this subdivision. When these people that are done with that, they have other lands that can be annexed into the city that we can continue to build more housing on here. But we can't be stagnant in what we're doing, and we can't be short-sighted in what we're doing. So we're trying to accommodate all.
Mr. Craig, anything else you'd like to add?
Once again, I'd like to say that the development on the north side will be an absolute wonderful thing for the city of Portage. Obviously, it grows our tax base, shows businesses that want to move here that we are a progressive, forward-thinking city, and I think it's a wonderful thing that's going to happen for the city of Portage.
Super. Like I said, I think housing is one of our topics that we can agree on when we're here. That brought me to my last question for the night. So what we are gonna do is give you each an opportunity now to give closing statements and tell the community why they should select you as the next mayor for the next 3 years. Mr. Craig, you get to go first.
Well, I'll leave you all with this final thought. In the last 20 years, there have been 3 former mayors in the city of Portage. They're all supporting me for this election because we've all watched over the last 6 years the growing disconnect between city government and the citizens that live here. And I would encourage you all and ask you all to vote for me on April 5th so that we can keep Portage moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Dodd.
Yes, and I would encourage people to vote for me because I have moved the needle in the city of Portage to the growth area that hasn't been there in the past. Yes, it's a long struggle, it's a long haul to get to where you wanna go, but we have started that movement to a better place to live, a better place to work, and a better place to play. And those are my goals, as a mayor, and I will continue those goals, because I think it's short-sighted to say that I have personal goals for the city. All of these goals are for the city. And to make that a better place, yes, we have to be economically sound, which we are. We need to be financially sound, which we are. In fact, during the last 6 years as mayor, I've raised the bond rating 2 points or 1.5 points, I believe, which gives us a better interest rate when we go to borrow money. We need to fix things. I agree that we need to fix infrastructure, but we have a plan to do that. We have every road in the city rated for what its shape is in, and we're working through that plan, because we're not gonna be able to fix it all in one time. So if you like where the city is going and what the city has done in the past 6 years with the parks and everything else, I would say, please vote for me.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you for being here tonight, sharing your views with us, and I wish you good luck in the election on April 5th.
Thank you.